So a lot of classical icons coming back and coming back together. So it's pretty interesting. So let's begin with the obvious. Jason is returning in not a prequel series. They have clarified a little bit, but a series with A24 for Peacock. And it does seem like they might have been restricted, but they've said they can use everything with Jason. So we may have, yes, full blown adult Jason with a hockey mask. Of course, we can expect, if you're into the Friday the 13th mythology, we're going to get Pamela. We may even get Tommy. We're going to get a lot of the major figures within the mythology. And Jason has been out of the picture for a while. So this is very welcome news. And given the people behind us, you can be very confident it will be at least meeting a certain quality standard. I don't know Brian Fuller's recent things, but I do know him from Star Trek, and I do really like Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Next Generation. So I am sort of a fan of the Trek stuff, and I do think Voyager was an excellent series. It doesn't get enough praise. So it does have a good background, and they let us know that they do seem to have access to most of the mythology. And again, even though this is going to be A24 and Peacock, so the budget may not be the biggest, it doesn't need to be the biggest. If you've seen the Friday the 13th movies, they often work pretty well within a small budget. So it's a lot of great news, a lot of good news for Jason fans. There are, of course, some things to be worried about that they may stretch things out to introduce Jason. Obviously, for the first season, you don't want him in every episode and things like that. And there's still a lot of details to hammer out, like who will be back in it, what parts of the story they will be adapting. They've said they're going to use different versions of Jason, so that gives you a hint that legitimately Jason will be, quote, killed off and then resurrected, maybe as a zombie, maybe as something else. Again, what Jason is in the later films is something even Jason fans have debated. Is he demonic? Is he a zombie? It's really not clear, but the good news is Jason is coming back. The bad news is this doesn't necessarily mean he's going to come back to the movies anytime soon. Like the movie rights are still very much going to be in dispute. That's a more behind the scenes kind of drama. I will get into that down the road. There's probably more boring news, but it is interesting to know like where the right situation is going to be cut up with Jason, what they can and cannot do. But apparently for this, they will be having access to a lot, and I mean a lot of what they can do with Jason. So it will be very exciting to see what they will end up finally bringing to us. And also with Saw X, yes, the infamous Kramer is coming back, and so Jigsaw will be making his return with Saw 10. Now, I've only seen the first couple of Saws. I was very satisfied. I think they're very strong films at the beginning, but I tried looking at the later ones. They didn't seem to mean anything. They just seemed to be really silly gore fests, and if you like those kind of things, that's fine, but I kind of dropped off from the Saw series. This, however, makes me very interested to come back in. I do know, doing some research, canonically, technically, he should be dead. How is it possible Jigsaw is coming back? Are they going to do some prequel trick, or is it a retcon? I don't really care. I think the actor is excellent. I really like Tobin's work. He's been in the industry a long time. I've seen a lot of his work. I know so many of his films from The Firm. He did a Clint Eastwood film, In the Line of Fire, and of course 24. So he's a very great character actor. He really needs to be given a lot more notice. So him being at the helm again is very satisfying. And you've got some people who have been with the Saw series for a while. So it looks like it'll be a very interesting entry. But how are they going to do it within the canon? We're going to have to wait and see. And finally, yes, the Sandman is coming back. Sandman has been renewed for a second season with Netflix. And Neil Gaiman, who was basically show running the show with some other people like David Goyer, was a little hesitant that they would be returning because even though it got pretty good ratings for what it is as a fantasy series, right? It's not House of the Dragon, it's not Game of Thrones, it's not even probably Rings of Power. So Sandman has always been for a much smaller audience, but nevertheless, it seemed to get impressive enough ratings. It even dethroned Stranger Things at one point. So it did get at least enough of an audience that they're confident to move on to the second season. But as Neil has said, this is a pretty expensive show because he used a lot of visual effects, just an insane amount of computer generated imagery, a lot of which was not very good, but that's my opinion. I was very mixed on the whole season one. They did have a lot of legitimately great episodes, but a lot of episodes were also very weak, kind of boring. They moved away from the comics too much, and the politics behind it were sometimes questionable. I didn't even like some of the lead actors, but I do want to see what they're going to do with season two. I am excited because even though they sacrificed a lot of stories with season one, they did set up a lot of twists and a lot of payoffs. So if you are a hardcore Sandman fan, they were seeding a lot of interesting material to use later on, and it looks like some of that will be paid off. Even if some of the episodes were a little weak, they were weak for a reason because they needed to set up certain things. And so it'll be very interesting what ultimately they're going to come up with. I can kind of guesstimate which storylines they're going to do, but that's for kind of theory videos. At this point, we really don't know. We only know it's been renewed. There will be a second season, but again, how many episodes? Will it be the same exact cast? Neil says that the same cast will be getting back to work, but I honestly hope that they do recast a few key roles. That's me. I don't think Lucifer worked out for me, but I know she's a fan favorite for other people. Very good news all around. Jason is coming back, Jigsaw is coming back, and Sandman is coming back. So we're just waiting now for Freddy and a few others to come back as well. It'll be a very interesting set of shows and projects coming our way soon.